The Centurion Mk.5-1, the first main battle tank of the Royal Australian Armoured Corps, but hopefully not the last. By now, you've probably seen it and wondered if we're running out of Centurion variants yet. Nope! Sovereign throughout the Vietnam War, this Australian modification of the Centurion is an interesting vehicle, if not the most exciting, even the most exciting Centurion variant. But today we're going to take a look at whether or not this tank from down under is worth grinding or potentially buying. This video is brought to you by supporters like you. Thanks for helping me make rent. In short, yes, the Centurion Mk.5-1 is a very enjoyable machine with a beastly lineup, receives rank 5 premium bonuses, and brings some noticeable benefits over other comparable Centurions and beyond. An upgrade of the Mark III with an additional 2 inches of frontal armour, bringing the front plate to 127mm of steel. The Centurion Mk.5-1 also fits night vision optics, an infrared spotlight atop the turret, and a coaxial 50 caliber ranging gun, which currently has the wrong designation. At 7.3, your main opponents will be quite varied, with recent changes to the matchmaker allowing Britain to routinely fight American Pattons alongside German King Tigers and Leopards, Russian T-54s and BMPs, and harsh up tiers to 8.3 will see you combating helicopters and T-55Ms. Equipped with the familiar 84mm or 20-pounder gun with its APDS rounds, the Australian Centurion is an evolution of the tech-tree Centurion Mark III rather than a revolution. The same pros and cons apply pretty much all around, and the differences, while noticeable, are incremental improvements that aid you in certain situations, rather than allowing you to play any differently. The turret front, while different given those ranging guns, is pretty much comparable to the Mark III's, and lacks the increased protection of the tech-tree Mark X or the premium Mark VII with the Action X turret. The additional 50mm of rolled homogeneous steel on the hull though, coupled with the angles of the Centurion's upper glacis plate, brings the Mark V's armour up high enough to reliably bounce German 88, American 90, or Soviet 100 or 122mm APHE shells. This is very useful, as this modification of the Centurion is the only one besides the Stage 2 Conway which lacks the ability to use smoke grenades, something a 5-minute Google image search will show you is unhistorical. Gonna need a yikes for that one, Gaijin. Because the hull is extended at the rear, allowing for the carriage of more fuel, including in a novel rack of jerry cans, the additions to the turret and the extra frontal armour, the Centurion Mk.5-1 is a couple tons heavier than its main rivals, the tech-tree Mark III and premium Action X, the latter of which trading hull armour for turret armour, having the standard Centurion hull with the improved turret. The Mark V is kind of the other way around. The added weight, however, isn't really noticeable as it is only a couple of tons, and the Mark V also removes the tank's side skirts, which can be useful specifically against BMPs, but once again, it's unlikely you'll really notice any major difference, even playing this and the Action X back to back. As with all Centurions at this BR, the vast majority of heat and sub-caliber rounds will go through the Mark V like a hot knife through Vegemite, so make sure to pick and choose carefully who you show your armour to, or better yet, don't you rely on it at all. As it stands, the Centurion Mk.5-1 is more of a replacement for the Carnarvon in the lineup than the Centurion Mark III, being a heavier Centurion with a more armoured hull, and given how extensive the 7.3 lineup can be, with now 8 modifications of the Centurion available, the Eland, Vampire, Ratel 20 and Swingfire, it needs to replace something. As it is an improvement over the heavy tank in weight and mobility, while still superseding the Mark III in hull protection, replacing the Carnarvon with a Mark V helps maintain space for CAS and support vehicles, while also having the benefit of earning you a substantial profit quite easily, especially when used in conjunction with the Action X. In this regard, the Mark V actually beats its premium rivals given its position in rank 5, while the equal if not slightly superior Action X, along with the Stridsvagn 81, which is no longer available to purchase, sit down in rank 4. With this in mind, the Centurion Mk.5-1 is well worth going for, especially if you're able to get it without spending much on the battle pass in the way of Golden Eagles, sans the $12 worth you need to spend to buy your way into it. If you're debating whether or not to spend Golden Eagles leveling your way through the season pass to get this tank, or you're thinking of buying it on the marketplace, then the Centurion Mark VII Premium with the Action X turret is in many ways a better pick, undoubtedly for less money. The Australian Battle Pass Centurion beats out the Action X in hull armour, but the Action X has a stronger turret. Where the Mk.5 brings an IR spotlight, the Action X has smoke grenades, which are far more useful. When it comes to premium benefits, the Action X sits in rank 4, meaning it can effectively research rank 6 British tanks, but on the flip side, the Mk.5's SL modifier is literally half that of the Action X, and its RP modifier is the same. So it's actually less valuable as a premium in general, it just remains useful for researching the higher ranks. The best case scenario is obviously to have both the Action X and the Mk.5 one, but then you have to ask yourself whether or not grinding and playing British MBTs is worth that much of an investment for you. With the new South African branch of the tech tree, it very well may be, and even buying the Action X and the Battle Pass in order to get the Mk.5 one works out cheaper than buying the Roycat 105 premium for that purpose. The Roycat 105 also has no real lineup besides the MTTD, which basically replaced it anyway, while the 7.3 lineup is, as we said, potentially enormous, in fact the best in the game by far. The thing is, you take away the Mk.5 one and that still rings true, so it's almost a diminishing return thinking about buying out the Australian tank. If the Mk.5 receives its smoke grenades, that may tip the scales in favour of its being worthwhile. However, if the Action X is bumped up to rank 5, where it kind of should be as a 7.3 main battle tank, then that will tip them back again. The last factor to consider will be the fact that as a premium, the Cent Mk.5 doesn't suffer from the exorbitant repair costs of the tech tree Centurion modifications at this BR. Oh, and as I said about the Canadian Leopard last year, Australian viewers who feel like they need this tank can rest assured it'll be well worth collecting for them. The playstyle of the Atomic tank is without a doubt the easiest part of this whole review. It's exactly the same as all the other Centurions at this BR. You're not winning any prizes for mobility, so don't even bother trying to assault caps early. You don't have a super fast reload like the French autoloaders or a nuke round like the Americans or Russians. Penetration is something the Centurions used to have going for them, but with their being raised all the way to 7.3 and having a whole bunch of heat FS rounds at BRs as low as 6.3 these days, they're just kind of okay. And your stabilizer, really the main unique feature of the Centurions, isn't unique at all in the 8.3 up tiers you face half the time. The Centurion is honestly a tank that really shouldn't work, but it does. Learn to pick a friendly tank and anticipate what they're not able to do. You should be able to cover pretty much anyone else's weaknesses and allow them to take the most of their advantages. The same goes for engagements with enemy tanks. Instead of looking at your vehicle, working out its strengths and attempting to employ them against anyone you meet on the battlefield, you need to be able to put yourself in the enemy tank's shoes, work out what they wouldn't be able to combat, and focus on exploiting their weaknesses and turning their own strengths against them, however possible. Personally, I find this to be an enjoyable playstyle, especially when MBTs at this tier can become quite stale, though it does take a long time and a lot of effort to master. The Action X and the Mk.5 one allow you the freedom to explore this playstyle over the Tech Tree Mark III and Carnarvon, specifically because they lack the high repair costs, which, let's be honest, make zero sense on those tanks. Seriously, 20 grand for the Carnarvon? Maybe it's 6.7 when it fought Tigers, but that is ludicrous when it spends half its time these days getting dunked on by T-55Ms, IFVs, and early attack helicopters. All up, the Centurion Mk.5 one is a side grade to the Action X, and the ability to field both of them together if you're able to get the Mk.5 for free is enjoyable and effective, provided you're willing to do something most players aren't, and that is to blame yourself for every single death or missed kill. Whether it appears to be your fault or not, treat it as if it were, and try and improve upon that situation next time. It'll get you a long way playing these British tanks. Of course, you have to purchase a season pass to have a shot at the Aussie tank, and for that price it is worth it, but if you have to spend much more than that, then you should really question what it is you want this tank for, and I would not recommend looking to buy this vehicle outright if you don't already have and enjoy the Action X. If you do have the Action X and you don't much like it, well then your question is pretty much answered. Anyway lads, that is going to be it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed, perhaps you found it informative, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments, are you going for this vehicle or not, and why? I'm keen to know how many people actually respond positively to a British tank like this. Britain usually doesn't get a lot of the event vehicles unless they're wacky things like the 90mm Ram or the AEC. Anyway, make sure to come follow us on Twitch, as when War Thunder's April Fool's event goes live, we are going to be starting a 24-hour live stream. It might not be War Thunder the entire time, but it should be a lot of fun. We do stream 3 times a week, every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, so if you do have any questions or feel like I missed something out in this video, come join us there. If you feel like supporting the channel, then you can do so for just 10 cents on Playstyle, it all means a lot, or you can grab something from our new merch store, The Armory. Remember to use code Koala21 for 10% off. And send me some pictures on Discord or at me on Twitter, I'd love to see you guys wearing some. Until then, thank you lads for watching, and I will catch you on the battlefield. Die! Oh, please! Yes! Bend it like Beckham, chat, that was beautiful!